Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another exciting and informative episode of the Paralegal Voice on the Legal Talk Network. I'm Jill Francisco, an advanced certified paralegal, current president of NALA, the Paralegal Association, and your host of this episode of the Paralegal Voice. I have over 22 years of paralegal experience, and I am so excited to share my knowledge and enthusiasm for the paralegal profession with you. We have a wonderful guest for today's show, but before we welcome her, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Legal Inc. Legal Inc. makes it easy for paralegals to digitally automate tasks like business formations, corporate filings, and registered agent services nationwide. Visit legalinc.com/podcast to create your free account. We would also like to thank ServeNow. ServeNow is a nationwide network of trusted pre-screened process servers. Work with the most professional process servers who have experience with high-volume serves, who embrace technology, and understand the litigation process. Visit servenow.com to learn more. Thank you to NALA, the Paralegal Association. NALA is a professional association for paralegals providing continuing education, voluntary certification, and professional development programs. NALA has been a sponsor of the Paralegal Voice since our very first show. And also, thank you to courtfiling.net. E-file court documents with ease in California, Illinois, Indiana, and Texas. To learn more, visit courtfiling.net to take advantage of a 30-day free trial. I am so excited to have Debbie Hrytzay, FRP, as my guest today. Debbie is a Florida registered paralegal employed by Rumberger, Kirk, and Caldwell in their Orlando, Florida office. Debbie has been employed with Rumberger, Kirk, and Caldwell for 9.5 years and has been working remotely for approximately 5 years. Debbie is going to share with us today her experience, tips, and guidance about how to effectively work remotely. A lot of paralegals have been thrown into working remotely, and she is going to be giving us some very valuable information today that you don't want to miss.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me. With working remotely, you have the opportunity and flexibility of setting up your workspace to maximize your productivity. Working remotely requires discipline and is most effective when you find what works best for you.
Debbie, before we get started, can you please tell our listeners a little bit more about your background and your experience?
I've been a paralegal for over 35 years, practically almost 40, but then I would be dating myself.
Don't tell on yourself.
I was employed with Liberty Mutual Insurance Company for 24 years until they reorganized their legal department to operate out of hubs in Oregon and Indiana. Not wanting to relocate to either one of those locations because I enjoy the nice weather and beaches here in Florida, I joined Rumberger Kirk in 2010. I primarily do insurance defense, premises liability, and personal injury.
Yeah, I'm jealous on your living situation. And plus, my BFF is in Florida, so I'm always looking to see if my firm's opening up any Florida offices. Anyway, so I was saying earlier how a lot of paralegals now, because of the situation with the COVID-19, have been thrown in to working remotely. And I say thrown in, but obviously we are very fortunate to still have our employment and that our employer has allowed, for us to do that. And all the paralegals are trying to, do business as usual and, be as efficient and effective as they were when they worked in the office. So this is obviously not by choice. So how did you get yourself into working remotely?
It's actually kind of an odd story. I live about an hour and a half away from the office. In 2015, with all the construction on I-4, it was just stressing me out. It was taking me 3+ hours a day going back and forth to the office. So I did find another employment opportunity that was much closer to my home, like less than 30 minutes away. So after about 3 months, Rumberger called me back and asked me if I would be interested in coming back. And I said, I don't really know about that. I left because I didn't want the commute. And they offered to let me work remotely as one of the conditions on returning to their firm.
So that's awesome, because obviously you didn't leave. You didn't leave because you didn't like, working for them. It was just like you said, that commute was killing you.
That's right. Exactly right.
Well, that's awesome. And like I said, I like it because like I think that's a little bit of a contrast to where we're at now with paralegals being thrown in, and you actually negotiated that in order to get back to an employer and, a job that you loved, but, you just needed to get that little part that you didn't love. Get rid of that part. So let's start talking a little bit about some tips and some tricks, because I'll tell you, I personally need some. I've been trying to navigate my way through this. And so hopefully you have a few tips and tricks for our listeners on, working remotely and doing it obviously effectively too.
I think probably one of the most important things is having a dedicated workspace, preferably an office with a door that you can close so you can minimize your distractions, no TV or anything that could, interrupt your thought process. Sticking to a regular routine, the same as when you work in the office, is important. It just gives you a little bit of structure. Getting dressed, you're not staying in your PJs.
Sounds simple.
Really simple, kind of common sense. It just, I don't know, just sets the tone for your day, for me anyway. And then just setting parameters and with the people that, are in your home to not interrupt you and create an environment or a structure that works best for you. It's kind of like common sense.
So let's go back and just talk a little bit about, maybe elaborate. It's funny when you talked about getting, get dressed, don't stay in your PJs. Because like I said, I've been chatting with other paralegals and, we've had some articles, there's been some webinars, there's a lot of stuff going on out there to help all professions adapt to their newly, remote working situation. And I saw one place where they said, you don't have to get dressed for success because, that's the popular adage sometimes that's used. You have to get dressed to answer the door. So if somebody comes to your door, be presentable, so to speak. It wouldn't be a big deal if you had a guest at your door and you could meet somebody at the door. But I do agree with you, and I think it's just tempting. I know that like the first couple of days, because I think I'm actually going on my third week. I think the last day I was in the office was March 12th. And so I'm going on my third week. And I know in the beginning, it was kind of like I was still, sitting. I had my dedicated workspace. I did have that set up. So I was all good to go on that because my personal, like I said, I was telling you, my son, IT had it all set up for me. I was lucky to have that. And I still sat down at around the same time that I would have been starting at work. But it was like I kind of just rolled out of bed. And I felt like, I felt like, I think and then to elaborate on, you were talking about a routine, getting the structure that works. I think that might be a key and something that I need to work on. Like I had the routine of getting up in the morning, getting dressed, doing the things I need to do at home. I got my son, I took him to school. I dropped him off. I went to work, that type of thing. It's like, and then so when I got to work, it's like you're in that mode. I mean, you're right ready. Like that's what you're doing. Your brain knows that. Your brain is trained. Like that's what comes next. And now it's just kind of like, is it Saturday? Is it Sunday? What's going on? Because that's funny. All the girls that I'm talking to and paralegals that we're laughing with, it's like, we don't have a clue. We mess up what day it is. We mess up what time it is because it's all like, it's just unfamiliar. We're at home. That's usually when we're not working, and so it's just kind of all running together. But, I think it's a key. And I wonder, I think you'll agree that, that to get a routine. And like I said, I think that's something that if you're thrown in, that it's going to take a minute to get into that, because now, like I said, I'm almost 3 weeks in. Now I get up and like I said, I'm doing the things that I used to do and, getting my little breakfast, getting something to drink, and then going over into my workspace, and then I'm starting, and it's kind of already now cluing everything in, training your brain, so to speak, that's what's next. Like now it's time to work, you're not just, because I just could roll out of bed and just sit in the chair and, start getting on the laptop, and it just wasn't exactly, I think, the, purposeful actions that needed to be taken place. So I like your advice about all that. What do you think about communication? Like like I feel like there's been a lot of things I've seen on boards and things on Facebook of the paralegal pages where it's like they worry either that their boss, they're trying to, like the communication line, like they worry, the boss may be worried, are they working? And then you may be worried, do they think I'm not working? And so how can you do you use communication? Do you communicate more? Do you use some kind of thing where you just kind of keep each other informed, the employer and yourself?
Well, that's part of the structure. No, if they know that you're working from home, and try to keep the same days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, so they know that I'm out of the office and I can be reached on my cell phone. And we do have a new phone system now that automatically rings to your cell after a certain amount of rings. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
always available either by phone or by email. And when I get an email, I try to respond like as quickly as possible if I'm at my computer, so they know that I'm there. Like it's kind of like if they had walked onto my office to talk to me, but
Oh, okay.
instead we're talking through the computer. So I try to be diligent about that.
Yes, that's exactly, I think, what I'm talking about. So, like you said, even if it's just like, yes, I got it, or I'm working on it in a minute, or, like you just said, just acknowledging that you've received that communication, like they just are, like you said, walking in their office and getting you. That's a great point, because I wonder
Right.
about it. Because I was telling somebody the other day, I feel like I'm working more because I don't want them to think I'm not working. I mean, that sounds silly, but you know what I'm
No,
saying?
not at all. That's true.
It,
When I first started working at home, I literally was afraid to leave my chair, and then my back was hurting, my neck was hurting because I was just like so afraid that they would think I was not working.
Yeah, and like taking advantage, and when really, like you said, it's like not even that. Like I still think I'm working more, but I think you're right. It's like I think that it's like I'm doing it because I want them to know I'm dedicated. I'm sitting here, I'm doing it even though I'm at home. But it's like also I think there's a flip side to that where you need to make sure, like, do you take dedicated breaks and dedicated, lunch, and then do you take those full times? Like, how do you do your little, like, kind of break it up a little bit?
I take a dedicated lunch, and then I take maybe like a couple of minutes like in the morning, and then maybe a couple of minutes in the afternoon. I don't need that many breaks, but
Right.
if I do, I go ahead and take them so remain productive, because if I don't, I just tend to feel very tired and not very efficient.
Well, yeah, and probably focus, like, if you're sitting there working on something and then you break it up too much, it helps, it probably takes a little while to get back focused. So let's take a little break. And before we move on to our next point of discussion, we need to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Legal Inc. Legal Inc. is empowering paralegals to embrace their inner legal rock star by automating the everyday tasks that hold them back. Through their free dashboard solution, paralegals can quickly and easily automate services like business formations, corporate filings, registered agent services, and more. Visit legalinc.com to create a free account and check out legalinc.com/podcast for a chance to win Legal Rockstar swag. This episode of the Paralegal Voice is brought to you by courtfiling.net, your solution for electronic filing in California, Illinois, Indiana, and Texas. Courtfiling.net provides a better e-filing experience so you can spend more time helping clients. Because they know that work sometimes happens after hours, courtfiling.net offers 24/7 phone, email, and chat support. Visit courtfiling.net to receive 30 days of unlimited free electronic filings and see how you too can e-file court documents with ease.
Welcome back to the Paralegal Voice. I'm Jill Francisco, and my guest today is Debbie Hrytzay, FRP, and we are discussing working remotely. We were just finishing up, Debbie, I think, about you had some really great tips about working remotely. I think we were just talking about staying on task and not getting focused. But I did want to ask you just one last thing about that. What's your 2 cents about, like, I'm sure it's tempting because I know I'm tempted, but again, I'm a newbie. I don't know what I'm doing. That mid-morning or something, it's like I finish something, finish a task or whatever. I'm like, oh, I could throw in some laundry or
That is
something
very
like that.
tempting, but
What do you think? What's your 2 cents on that?
I try to arrange my chores so they can be on my breaks. Like I'll start before I begin work, and then on my lunch break, I'll finish up. And then after work, I do more. I try not to let that interfere with my day.
Okay, because it is so tempting because it's
Is.
almost like you think, hey, I could get it all done. I could get all my work done. I could get all my work done. I could get all the laundry done. And then when it's quitting time, it's like, oh, I'm free from everything. But you and I know it never works out anyway. We would just have more stuff to do. So anyway, but I did want to know your advice on trying to do the little tasks and things, because I think it's tempting.
It is very tempting.
Especially for us that hadn't been able to do that. Like now I would never have been at home to do that unless I'm sick, which clearly I'm not going to be doing my chores if I'm sick. So that's why I did want to address that. So I appreciate you saying it is tempting. And I like how you were talking about to, like you said, start it, maybe do a little bit at your lunch break and then finish it up at the end of your workday. So let's get into a little bit of advantages, because clearly, I think it's a perk. Like me, from an outsider, I feel like I'm still an outsider with working remotely. Maybe I won't be when this is all said and done, but I feel like it's a perk. So what are some advantages that you think, that you have and that you've enjoyed by having the ability to work remotely?
I like the flexibility of when I start my day. I can either sleep in or start early or work later. I don't have to worry about being late for work because I'm stuck in traffic. The flexibility is a wonderful thing. I like having less distractions and less interruptions. It makes me feel much more productive. And if I'm feeling better about my job and what I do, it's good for me and the firm. I like being able to, we already discussed this, catch up on chores at home.
Yep.
Getting dinner started early, so we're not eating at 8:00 at night.
That is definitely a luxury. Sounds simple, but it's not.
Right. I'm saving money on gas and tolls and just the wasted time in the car. And I get to spend more time on my hobbies and with my family. I'm a gardener, so I get to go out and check out my veggies and still daylight out.
Yeah, those are all wonderful things. And I love the thing that you said with family. I was telling my son, I have a 15-year-old son, and of course he's off of school, and he came down. I was fixing him some lunch. We were taking the same kind of lunch break today. And I looked at him and I said, hey, the last time that we had this much time at home together, I was on maternity leave. and he, yeah, exactly. I think that was pretty much his expression too, and I said, you were a baby, and now he's 15. And so there is something to be said. And, I'm just trying to look to the positives of this situation that we're in. It's you have the luxury, you were doing it, and you are getting the perks of it. And for us that have been thrown into it and we're doing it just to try to, keep everything moving, keep everything churning, I'm just trying to find the positives. And like I said, I definitely think one of the positives is, that I get to spend time with JD. Now, I will say I've seen a lot of things, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, and obviously you said you've been working at home for, what did you say, 5 or so years?
5 years.
5 years. So you didn't have to deal with it either. But, I think it's hard for paralegals that are now finding themselves working from home, not by choice, and they have young children and school's out, and they have to homeschool their children. I think that's
a
probably
big struggle.
Yeah, I think that's probably a little bit much, because my son has work to do, but he is up and doing it on his own. And of course, he gets help from my husband in math when he comes home, because I'm not doing the math. As you know, when you get the paralegal profession, you don't have to do math. You had to take that one math class and we're done with it. But it's been nice. So it's like I can enjoy JD, being with him at the breaks, just being around here and there. But although to me, he's not distracting to me, because he's upstairs, he's on a different floor, I'm down doing my work, and he we just kind of take breaks together and, like you said, here and there, and space them out. So it's not a distraction to me. But I think that's a very, very valid point. And I think, and I know, you treasured it with even, with your family, or like you said, your hobbies, and just to enjoy, being at your home. I mean, we spend so much time, at the office usually and typically. So to just be able to be at home and enjoy, I think that's a big perk. And I think you probably, obviously that's what, drew you back to the employer that you had left, because they were going to afford you that luxury of being at home, and able to enjoy some stuff. And I love you brought up save money, because I didn't even think of that. I didn't.
Well, dry cleaning, I mean,
Yeah.
everything. So
Well, and what's so funny now, I mean, I'm in West Virginia. I know that you're in Florida. So it's like traffic and the stuff that you say is obviously not that big of a deal here with me. But it's hilarious that, just gas. I mean, simple things like gas and things. Because, I mean, I haven't filled my car up. I mean, I don't know, for 2 weeks probably, which, of course, we would have been going out a little bit more, in a typical situation. But we're under our social distancing. So, and our stay-at-home orders. But I love that you brought that up, because that's a big thing to, keep in mind for paralegals, because it's going to save them money. So if they take a job and they're making decent money, that's not going to cut in. Those are all those expenses that wouldn't cut in if they get afforded, to work at home, either exclusively or, like you said, did you mention you do it 2 times a week?
yes, and twice a week.
And you space it out, did you say Tuesday and Thursday?
Right. So it's every other day in the office.
That's nice. That's nice. And also, do you ever switch it, or do you switch it according to your workload or activities too, like or assignments?
I've had to when I've had trials,
Oh, yeah.
but is when I do switch it up, it throws everybody at the office off a little bit. It's like, what day is today? And it's like, you're not supposed to be here.
So you're confusing everybody, like I'm saying I'm confused now, where I have no idea what day it is.
So they like the predictability.
Well, before we move on to our last couple of things we're going to discuss here, we need to take another quick commercial break. So we'll be right back.
NALA offers continuing education, professional development, and voluntary certification for all paralegals. The Certified Paralegal Credential has been awarded to more than 19,000 paralegals. The Certified Paralegal Program is also the first paralegal certification program accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. NALA works actively with all those in the legal field to promote the value of paralegals and to advance paralegal professionalism. Learn more about NALA at www.nala.org. Looking for a process server you can trust? ServeNow.com is a nationwide network of local pre-screened process servers. ServeNow works with the most professional process servers in the industry, connecting your firm with process servers who embrace technology, have experience with high-volume serves, and understand the litigation process and rules of properly effectuating service. Find a pre-screened process server today. Visit www.servenow.com.
Welcome back to the Paralegal Voice. I'm Jill Francisco, and my guest today is Debbie Hrytzay, FRP. And before the break, we were wrapping up our discussion on the advantages of working from home and working remotely. And so now Debbie's going to go over, I think, because we all need to know this. We talked about the things that are, a positive and advantages to working from home, but we also need to address and have people be advised of some pitfalls or some things to avoid. So I'm sure, Debbie, you have some great pointers for people on that.
I do. I think there's many more advantages than there are pitfalls, but I guess that's an individual thing, your personality and how you do things. I think one of the biggest pitfalls is the distractions or interruptions. It's like my husband has said, "Oh, you're home, not working tomorrow. You're home tomorrow." And it's like, yes, I am working. I'm just working from home. So there's like a misconception, just because I'm home, I'm not working, and that I can be interrupted. So not having a routine. I don't know how, I know I'm very structured. So if I don't set, the parameters or boundaries, then it's just, I don't get what I need to get done. I think the biggest thing is the less interaction with your peers and coworkers. I think I'm missing that the most, especially since I've been home for a couple weeks every day now.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah,
So
you are you're extending your work from home. So I need to remember that. So your usual 2 days has turned into, yes, 5 days, like the
yeah.
rest of us.
So it's been an adjustment. I mean, I don't not enjoy it, but I do miss the people at work. And just it's boundaries, setting ground rules for people at work and for people at home. It's like, okay, I'm at work, so don't interrupt me or don't call me like after, 6 o'clock or whatever. Try to take care of it during business hours. So we all need our, personal time.
Yeah, I like that you said boundaries, but not just boundaries for people that might be in your, like you said, your husband or, your family or whatever while you're working from home, but also boundaries on the other side, boundaries for the people you work with. Because already, like I had said earlier in the show today, that I already feel like that I am busier, and I don't know if that's the right word, but I know I'm working longer. And I feel like, it's harder. Like I don't quit because I'm like, well, I'll just, it's harder to say I'm going to leave the office. You have to leave. I had to go pick up my son. I have to leave and go do something. And so now it's like, I can just still keep sitting there, and I look up and it's, 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Right.
And I'm like, because it's easy. I mean, you're sitting there, you're in your home, you're whatever. And I just think I like how you brought up boundaries on both sides of that, because I think it's hard. You keep just telling yourself, well, I'm just going to, answer this last email, or I'm going to, draft this last pleading, or, whatever. And then, like I said, before you know it, you're way past your regular work hours. And I definitely think it could definitely be an issue. And I think that's might be one of the hard things. And that probably goes into routine, like you were saying. And I think it's going to be hard because I wonder if we're just going to get into our working remotely routine and then most of us have to go back to our working in the office routine.
It's not going to be easy.
Let me ask you just your opinion on this, because it's interesting to me. Do you think that the whole thing with the COVID-19 is going to affect how the law offices let paralegals or permit paralegals, or, open their eyes to some of the advantages that maybe come to light because of the situation of the staff and things working from home?
I do. I think, that it is a positive thing if everybody in the office is doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think
Yes.
it saves, on real estate. You don't have to have offices, that you can have paralegals at home and not have to have an office. I think it's a positive thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I think you bring up a good point. It's if everybody, because of course, I think you said you were insurance defense, and I'm on the defense side too. And it's like, I feel like if the paralegals billables are, where they usually are, or even more, because I don't feel like that my workload has dropped off since I've been working from home. It's not like I'm losing cases or we're not working the cases as we were. I think I've gotten even a couple new cases since I've been at home, and there's plenty to do. And so I feel like, and like I said, you said if everybody's doing their work, I think if they see those numbers and they're on point and they're on par with what they usually are, like you said, I think it could be positive for paralegals to either go and negotiate and request, like, hey, I know that I didn't ever work from home, but we had that period where I did, and I really liked it, and I was still productive. So could I do it again?
Right. And the firm has happier employees because they have more time for themselves. And as long as they're billing their time, and it's a win-win.
That's a very good thing too, is like you said, just overall morale and happiness. Because like you said, I feel like I should be not mad, but it's not like we're in the greatest situation right now with the COVID-19 going on, but it's like I'm not like depressed. I'm feeling good. I'm fortunate with my job. And then plus, like you said, I'm at home. I'm getting to go outside. Like I go outside and sit on my deck, where you were saying that you were going out and you had your garden and things like that. Like I'm going outside and getting some little sun and fresh air at the lunch break. And, obviously then in between enjoying priceless time, at least to me, that I would have never had with my son at home. My husband, is considered essential because he works at a pharmacy, manages a pharmacy, and is a head tech there. And so he's still going to work every day, so he's not here, but it's still more time because he gets home and I'm not, like you said, an hour more to get home and to start dinner or do whatever we wanted to do for the evening. It's like we're already here.
Right.
When he comes through the door, we're already here and we're ready to go. So I think that you're right, and I hope that that's what happens with business and even just business in general. I mean, do you think that like businesses will realize, like you were just mentioning, costs with real estate and things like that, businesses will realize that like now you can't be, say, for instance, doing face-to-face depots. So they're doing them remotely, even though they wouldn't have. It's like, hopefully they'll see that maybe it's effective and it's very efficient and it saves people's time and, it was cheaper, you'd have to travel. Maybe they'll see some advantages to that and it'll change the way we use technology. I mean, do you think that some of that kind of stuff will come about also?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because some of the older attorneys, they're so used to doing face-to-face depositions, and there was
Oh,
even some discussion about having a mediation that done
oh,
remotely with the technology that we have today. And the younger attorneys are coming around, and I think we have one scheduled, I think, in the next couple of weeks.
oh, that'll be super cool. I've never seen the remote mediation. So that'll be super cool if that works out. So that's, again, I think more opportunities and like you said, paralegals are right. And I think paralegals are open to that. We're adaptable. We're, just kind of rolling along, want to be the one that makes the process easier, wants to help out, not really afraid of change. Usually, I think, I mean, it's not probably everybody's favorite, but I think usually we kind of go with it. We're up on technology. So again, I think it's just positive for the paralegals. I mean, I think for the profession.
I definitely think it's a good thing.
Like I said, I like it. So we'll see. I'll have to get back with you and see if I could negotiate whenever we're out of this, if I've negotiated to be able to be at home a little bit. So how about like just kind of ending? I wanted to see if you have any other, general advice, just to give our listeners some other things, your comments, just to, like I said, help them out, get through this time of working remotely.
Think having the right office setup, equipment, and technology is key. If you don't have that, it doesn't really work. You have to find out what works best for you and communicate to the people that you work with so they know what to expect.
Mm-hmm. I had somebody tell me the other day, because like I said, I've been reading and talking a little bit with people. They said almost it feels like you're over maybe communicating, but it's like you just said earlier where they email you, you want to email back real quick so they know you got it. So you acknowledge that they have asked you to do a task, say for instance, and maybe if you were in the office, you wouldn't. Maybe you would just do it, and then in 10, 15, 20 minutes or a half hour later, you would just say, here you go.
Right.
But I think maybe so sometimes maybe it's over communication. I mean, possibly just to kind of keep it flowing. And like you said, so they know you're working on it and you can keep it going back and forth and give a status, maybe, more than maybe you usually would if you were in the office, possibly. So just maybe communicate a little bit more.
Yeah, I do the same thing in the office now. I've become conditioned to do it. So I wouldn't say it's over communicating because, knowledge is power. So if they know you're
Oh,
working
it's
on
true.
it and they get a call and say, hey, is this done? No, but my paralegal is working on it right now. So
Right. So really, like you said, maybe had it started out to just do it, like you said, remotely. It's really now everybody's used to it and it's very helpful. So like you said, to give the status and to be informative on your progress and things with your project. So that's kind of cool that one thing, turned into being a good thing to do all the time. So anyway, Debbie, I think that, that pretty much wraps up our advice. And I really, really thank you for joining me today and being a guest on the show. You mentioned so much valuable information and gave us so much insight. And I think also you just demonstrated, that it's work for you and you're very successful at it. And, you're making your employer happy. And I think that's a great example that you've set and your experiences that you've relayed to our listeners. And so I think that they definitely may want to reach out to you. So what is the best way if a listener would like to contact you and follow up, or they might have some questions for you?
They can email me at it's D Hrytzay. It's HRYTZAY at CenturyLink.net. And I want to thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. And like I said, thank you so very much for joining us. I think that you've really helped our listeners get through this time of working remotely. And I don't know, but I'm definitely on the remote train. So I may be getting back with you to see how I can convince my employer to let me do it a couple of times a week. I don't think I would like to do it every day. I really love your recipe that you have going on a couple of days a week. So again, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And thank you also to our listeners today who tuned in. If you have any comments or questions for me, please contact me at jfrancisco@logical.com. I hope you will join me for our next episode next month. I'm Jill Francisco for the Paralegal Voice, signing off.
The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, or subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.